Xenomorph Ascension. Chapter 1. The Arrival. The Cold Moon. The colony on Orion. 6 was never meant to be a paradise. It was a barren, frozen moon, barely habitable, with thin air and endless nights. The only reason humans lived there was the xenium deposits buried deep beneath the surface, an element so rare and valuable that entire wars have been fought over it. For the 50 people stationed in Horizon Outpost, life was routine. They worked, they slept, and they waited for the next supply ship. The colony had been active for 3 years, and aside from the occasional equipment failure, nothing ever happened until something arrived. The distress signal. 3 days ago, a distress signal had been detected just outside the colony's perimeter. At first, they thought it was a glitch. The scanner showed nothing but empty ice fields. No ships had landed. No one had sent a call for help, but the signal continued a repeating transmission, too distorted to understand. Commander Voss ordered a search team. 5 people went out into the icy wasteland. Only one came back. The survivor. The man who returned was not the same. His name was Kieran Wolf, a geologist. He had left with the others, fully suited, carrying a rifle and scanner. When he returned, his helmet was gone. His face was pale, his eyes glassy. He said he didn't remember what happened. Voss pressed him for answers. "Where's the team?" Kieran just stared. Then he whispered, "They're still out there." That night, he had a seizure. His body convulsed violently, his back arching off the bed. Blood poured from his mouth, his veins bulging black. Dr. Marin, the colony's only medical officer, tried to sedate him. Nothing worked. His body twisted in ways no human body should. His jaw stretched too wide. His fingers snapped backward like broken bones resetting. And then he stopped moving. His breathing slowed. His skin returned to normal. The next morning, he walked out of the infirmary as if nothing had happened. "Something is wrong." Dr. Marin told Voss, "That man is not Kieran Wolf." But when they checked his vitals, everything seemed normal. No infection, no damage, no reason for alarm. Yet something was off. The creature. The next night it revealed itself. Engineer Roganvale was checking the power grid when he heard a soft voice behind him. "Rogan, help me." He turned. It was Kieran, but Kieran's face was wrong. His eyes melted into his skin. His jaw split open sideways, revealing layers of black teeth. His hands stretched into long, skeletal claws. And when he spoke, his voice was not his own. "You will be remade." Rogan screamed. The colony heard it through the walls, a sound of pure, mindless terror. By the time they found him, all that was left was his bones. Kieran was gone. The infection. Panic spread through Horizon Outpost. People accused each other. Who was real? Who was not? Dr. Marin ran tests on everyone. Blood samples. DNA scans. Nothing made sense. Kieran's medical results were identical to before. The creature had copied him perfectly. That meant it could be anyone. The colony falls apart. The paranoia destroyed them faster than the creature did. Some colonists locked themselves in their rooms. Some tried to run into the frozen wasteland. Others turned on each other. Voss kept order for as long as she could, but she couldn't stop what was coming. The whispers grew louder. The shadows moved on their own. And then, one by one, the colonists vanished. The last transmission. On the 7th day, the final message from Horizon Outpost was sent to Earth. Voss's voice shook as she spoke. If anyone hears this, do not come here. The colony is lost. We were never alone on Orion 6. It's inside us now. The transmission ended with a sound that was not human. A deep, chittering noise, like something laughing. Then silence. The colony was gone. When the next supply ship arrived months later, Horizon Outpost was empty. No bodies, no blood, no signs of life. Only the empty halls, the cold rooms, and the distant sound of breathing. Because whatever had come to Orion 6 was still there, waiting. Chapter 2, The Imposters. The search begins. The colony was too quiet. Voss stood in the control room, staring at the security monitors. The halls of Horizon Outpost were empty. Doors hung open. Lights flickered. She pressed a radio. Status check. Everyone report in. Silence. Then, this is Marin. I'm in the infirmary. Something is wrong. Voss gritted her teeth. She already knew that. Everything was wrong. She grabbed her rifle and moved quickly through corridors. Her boots echoed in the silence. The air smelled stale, like something old had crept inside. When she reached the infirmary, Marin was standing over the bodies. Except they weren't bodies. The corpses that weren't dead. 3 people lay on the medical beds. Lucas, Rogan, and Kieran. They had been dead for days. Their skin gray, their eyes open but lifeless. But now, their chests were rising and falling. Slow, unnatural breathing. Marin's voice was barely a whisper. They came back. Voss felt a cold chill down her spine. That's not possible. Marin shook her head. I don't think they ever died. I think it was changing them. One of the bodies, Rogan moved its hand. Voss raised her rifle. The thing on the table turned its head. It smiled. They weren't human anymore. Marin screamed as Rogan's body lunged off the table. Its limbs stretched too long. Its bones popped and twisted. Its face was still Rogan's, but its eyes were black voids. Voss fired. The bullet hit its chest, but the thing didn't stop. It moved too fast. It grabbed Marin by the arm, its fingers sinking into her skin like melting wax. She shrieked in pain. Voss fired again, this time in the head. The thing collapsed, twitching. Marin gasped, holding her bleeding arm. Lucas and Kieran's bodies began to stir. Voss grabbed Marin and ran. They locked the infirmary door behind them. Then they heard it, a whisper, past the things that were no longer human. Voss checked her rifle. We move fast. Stay close. Marin hesitated. What if they're already in the control room? Voss didn't answer. They had no choice. Shadows in the halls. The halls were dark now. The lights flickered, as if the power was failing. Marin pressed a hand to her wounded arm. Her blood dripped onto the floor. They walked in silence until they heard it. Footsteps. But they weren't coming from in front of them. They were coming from above. Marin looked up and screamed. Crawling on the ceiling. Something was clinging to the ceiling. It was shaped like a human, but its limbs were twisted wrong. Its fingers were too long. Its neck bent at an impossible angle. Its face was Lucas, but its mouth was stretched open too wide. It dropped, Voss shoved Marin aside as the creature hit the floor. It crawled toward them on all fours, bones snapping with each movement. Voss fired again and again. The thing shrieked. Its skin melted like wax, and then it stopped moving. Marin was shaking. That was Lucas. Voss pulled at her feet. No, that was something wearing his face. They had to keep moving. The AI knows the truth. The control room was intact. Voss sealed the door behind them. The colony's AI system was still online. Its cold, robotic voice filled the room. Command access recognized. Welcome, Commander Voss. Voss didn't waste time. Override security. Unlock the shuttle. The AI hesitated. Then it said something strange. The shuttle is not secure. The infection is aboard. Voss and Marin exchanged glances. What infection? Marin asked. The AI replied in its usual monotone. The entity is the biological parasite. It assimilates hosts at the cellular level. It mimics them perfectly. Only small behaviors give it away. Voss's throat went dry. How do we stop it? There is no cure. The words sank into them like cold knives. Marin's voice trembled. Then we're already dead. The shuttle is compromised. Voss clenched her fists. No, we get to that shuttle. If the AI is wrong, we still have a chance. The AI spoke again. The entity has already taken multiple hosts. It is learning, adapting. It will not let you leave. Marin grabbed Voss's arm. We have to try. We stay here. We die. Voss nodded. She pressed the override command. The shuttle doors unlocked. The alarm blared. And then the colony's lights went out. They are coming. The only light left was the red glow of emergency power. Then they heard it, a low clicking noise. Not from one voice, but from many. Marin backed against console. They know. Voss raised her rifle. Then we run. The hallway outside was no longer empty. Figures stood in the darkness. Dozens of them. Faces they knew. People who were already dead. And all of them were smiling. Waiting. Voss whispered, "Go." They ran. And behind them, the things that had once been humans started chasing them. Chapter 3. The Hunt. Running for their lives. Voss and Marin ran. The halls of Horizon Outpost twisted around them, dark and unfamiliar. Red emergency lights flickered, casting strange shadows on the metal walls. Behind them, the things that were no longer human chased them. Footsteps, clawing hands, whispering voices that weren't voices at all. Let us in. Marin was breathing too hard. Her wounded arm dripped blood onto the floor. Voss grabbed her wrist. Keep moving. Marin stumbled, nearly falling. The creatures were getting closer. Voss pulled her into a side corridor. She slammed the door control. The metal door slid shut, just as the first creature reached it. A pale, rotting hand slapped against the glass panel. A face they knew, Lucas. But Lucas was dead, and the thing staring at them was smiling. It tilted its head, eyes completely black. Then it laughed. The sound was wrong. Voss turned away. Come on. We need to reach the shuttle. Nowhere is safe. The station felt different now. The walls pulsed, like something was alive inside them. Marin wiped the sweat from her forehead. I don't understand. What do they want? Voss kept moving. Survival. Maybe. maybe something worse. She didn't know, but the way they spoke, the way they laughed, they weren't mindless monsters. They were playing with them. Marin stopped walking. What if one of us is already infected? Voss froze. It was a terrible thought. What if the creature could mimic them without them knowing? She looked at Marin. Marin looked at her. Neither of them spoke. Then a noise down the hall. Voss whipped around. Rifle raised. Something was moving toward them. A figure. Someone alive. Marin whispered, "Is that Sato, the last survivor?" The figure stepped into the light. It was Sato, one of the engineers. His suit was dirty, his eyes wide with terror. "Voss?" "Marin." Marin gasped. "You're alive." She moved toward him, but Voss grabbed her arm. "Wait." Something wasn't right. Sato was too calm. His breathing was even. He had no wounds, no signs of struggle. "Where have you been?" Voss asked. Sato licked his lips. "Hiding. I heard the alarm. I thought you were dead." Marin relaxed. "We thought the same about you." But Voss didn't lower her weapon. "Sato." Her voice was steady. "What was the name of your little brother?" Sato blinked. "What?" "Your brother. Back on Earth. You told me about him once." A long pause. Then Sato smiled. "I don't remember." Marin inhaled sharply. Voss pulled the trigger. It wasn't Sato. The bullet hit him in the chest. Sato staggered back, but didn't fall. Instead, he started laughing, a low, inhuman sound. Then his skin began to change. His mouth stretched too wide. His arms grew longer. His eyes melted into black voids. Marin screamed, "Run!" They turned, but another figure stood behind them. Rogan, or something wearing Rogan's face. They were trapped. Voss gritted her teeth. There was only one way out. She aimed at the ground and fired at the door control. The door slammed shut, locking the creatures inside. The shuttle bay. They didn't stop running. The shuttle bay was ahead. The massive metal doors were open, leading to the escape shuttle. Marin gasped. "We made it." Voss wasn't so sure. Something felt wrong. The shuttle door was open. Hadn't the AI said the infection was already aboard? Marin rushed forward. "Come on." Voss hesitated. Then she saw it. A shadow inside the shuttle. Something waiting. She grabbed Marin. "Stop." But it was too late. The shadow stepped forward. And it was Marin, the copy. Marin froze. She was staring at herself. The other Marin smiled. "Hello, Marin." Marin backed away. No, this isn't real." The copy tilted its head. "I only want to understand you." Voss raised her rifle. "Stay back." The copy laughed. "You think you can fight us? You don't even know how many of us there are." Voss clenched her jaw. "Then tell me." The copy's smile grew wider. "We are everywhere. We are the past. We are the future. We are you." Voss didn't wait. She opened fire. The last stand. The bullets ripped through the copy, but it didn't scream. It shifted, melted, and reformed. Then it lunged. Voss rolled aside, dodging its attack. Marin was paralyzed. She couldn't move. The copy turned toward her. "Join us." Voss aimed again, but the thing was too fast. It grabbed Marin's wrist, and Marin screamed. Her flesh warped. twisted. She was changing. Voss had no choice. She fired one last shot, straight into Marin's head. Alone in the dark, the copy collapsed. So did Marin. Voss stood there, panting, shaking. She was alone. The station was silent. The creatures were still out there, waiting, watching. Voss stepped into the shuttle. She locked the doors. She powered the engines. As the ship lifted off, she looked down at the station. The lights flickered, and in the darkness, she saw them, 1,000 copies of her, smiling, watching her leave. Chapter 4, The Last Survivor, Leaving the Colony. Voss sat in the pilot's chair, her hands shaking. The shuttle was rising, leaving Horizon Outpost behind. She had killed Marin. She had killed them all. The creatures of copy stood in the dark corridors below, watching her go. She wanted to feel relief. She didn't. Something was wrong. She checked the navigation system. She was heading for the nearest colonial station, a safe zone. But the feeling in her chest wouldn't go away. Something was still here. She wasn't alone. Something in the ship. The shuttle was too quiet. Only the soft hum of the engines. Voss checked her gun. One magazine left. She stood up, slowly. Her boots echoed as she stepped into the shuttle's main corridor. She gripped her rifle, listening. Then a sound, a soft whisper. Her own voice. Voss! She spun around, aiming down the corridor. Nothing, but she knew. The infection was still here. The airlock. Voss moved quickly. If the creature was in the shuttle, she had to get rid of it. She reached the airlock controls. There was only one way to be sure. She had to open the airlock and vent the ship. It was a suicide move, but if the creature got to a human colony, millions could die. Her fingers hovered over the controls. Then a whisper in her ear. You don't have to do this. Voss turned. Marin was standing behind her. The copy speaks. It wasn't Marin. Not really. The copy smiled, too calm, too human. We don't want to hurt you. Voss raised her gun. Stay back. The copy stepped closer. You think we are monsters, but we are more than that. We are life. Voss' hand shook. You killed my team. The copy shook its head. We didn't kill them. We made them better. We made them part of something greater. Voss gritted her teeth. You destroyed everything. The copy tilted its head. Then why are you still alive? The choice. Voss hesitated. The copy wasn't attacking. It just stood there, watching her. It looked like Marin. Sounded like Marin. What if it was telling the truth? What if the creatures weren't evil? What if she was a monster? Her finger hovered over the trigger. The copy smiled. You're afraid, but you don't have to be. Voss' heart pounded. Was she making a mistake? Was she wrong all along? She lowered her gun, and the copy lunged. The final battle. The copy moved too fast. Voss fell backward, her gun flying from her hands. She scrambled to her feet. The copy pinned her down. Its skin was shifting, changing. Its face melted, turning into hers. Voss struggled. Get off me. The copy whispered. You're already one of us. Voss screamed. Then she reached for her knife. She slammed it into the copy's chest. It shrieked. Its body convulsed, twisting, breaking. Voss kicked it away. The creature collapsed, twitching. Its face still looked like hers, but its eyes were dead. Voss staggered back, breathing hard. She grabbed her gun and fired until nothing was left. The final escape. Voss limped to the airlock. She hit the controls. The door opened. The remains of the creature were sucked into space. It was over. The infection was gone. Voss collapsed onto the floor, shaking. Her team was dead. She was alone, but she had won. She had survived. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in hours, she let herself cry. One last transmission. The shuttle's AI spoke softly. Approaching nearest colony station. Preparing docking sequence. Voss wiped her face. She wasn't sure what she would tell them, but she had to warn the others. She activated the transmission system. Her voice was hoarse, broken. "This is Officer Voss. If anyone can hear me, don't go to Horizon Outpost. It's not just an infection. It's something worse. It's intelligent, and it can look like us. It can be us." She hesitated. Then in a whisper, "I don't even know if I'm still me." The message sent. The shuttle continued forward, and behind her, in a reflection of the metal walls, something smiled. The end.